Welcome back, everybody. It's great to be here on another Friday. My name is John Sullivan, and you're watching Sportsbook Confidential on the FingerLakes1.com network. And this little show here is to help you learn and grow as a sports bettor. And we're in the middle of summer, and things are kind of light in the sports world, for the average fan. But we're continuing with our NFL preview today. We're going to do the NFC North. And, of course, I have my model-based picks for Major League Baseball, so you can see how I weight each game going on tonight in the major leagues. And, of course, my favorite, Canadian football, is in Week 7, and we've got 2 games left on the schedule for this weekend, and we'll talk about those as well. But before we get into any of that, let's do what we always do and start by updating my bankroll. And we were a hair away from a perfect week. Last Friday, we had the Reds on the money line, and they were up 7-0 in the 6th inning. And then they gave up 12 runs, and they ended up losing 12-11 in 9 innings. Minus $22 hit to the bankroll there. But we did win on the Diamondbacks. And as remember, I said last week we had 3 home dogs, and the Diamondbacks won for us plus $26. The Giants were plus $157 on the money line, and that was a profit of $35 for us. And then we had 2 CFL picks, the Alouettes plus 6 on the spread. They won that game outright plus $20. And the BC Lions over with the Rough Riders, and that paid off for us plus $21. And if you do the math, we had a profit of $80 for the week. That makes our new bankroll $740. Bet size $25. We're just about right back where we started last year, and very excited that we can finish up maybe before our first year is done this coming Labor Day in the black, and that would make me very happy. But we're sticking to our process. It seems to be working, since we're selective sports bettors, we divide our bankroll by 30 bets. So our bet size, again, is $25 this week. And let's go into our preview this week. And for those of you that don't know the divisions in the NFL, we're previewing the NFC North, which are the Chicago Bears, the Green Bay Packers, Minnesota Vikings, and the Detroit Lions. And this is a very interesting division to me, not necessarily because of the rivalries or because of who's championship favorites, but of all the divisions I've reviewed so far, this one is odds-based. It's the most balanced. Now, for those of you that haven't watched my other previews, I don't really go over position by position like fantasy-style preview. I give you odds to show what the sports books think of each team to win their division, the conference, or the whole shebang, the Super Bowl, and then their over-under wins. And I talk about a couple issues I see, my interpretation. Take it for what you will. So let's start with the favorite of the division, the Chicago Bears. Win total over under 9.5. You've got Mitchell Trubisky as the quarterback. You've got the tandem running backs of Howard and Tariq Cohen. You've got a solid tight end. And I question whether their receiver depth, as I have listed as an issue, is there. But their receivers are adequate. The defense, of course, is very stout. They have a good run-stopping defensive line. Khalil Mack in the linebacking core. I guess their only questions would be secondary. But they're the favorite to win the NFC North at plus 171. To win the NFC outright, they're about 9-1. And to win the Super Bowl, they're just a shade under 16-1. And I think this is a very good team, and they came together very well last year. But the issues I see, of course, are receiver depth. I feel like they need to bring another receiver into the mix. I the couple of the names escape me at the moment, but I just don't feel like they have enough depth at wide receiver to carry on a winning streak in this league. It's getting more and more passer reliant every time. Now they do have Cohen's an excellent receiver, and he's one of the fastest guys in the league, and he's good on special teams as well. So receiver depth is an issue for me. Also kicking. They missed a couple of important kicks late in the year and in the playoffs. That is something that needs to be addressed. For any team, I said in previous weeks, for any team that is seriously considering a championship run, that is something that has to be mitigated for them. So where it gets interesting, as we look at the Bears, we're going to move on to the Green Bay Packers, who are the second favorite. And you'll see that the odds are very similar. So the wins over under 9.5, same amount of wins. To win the NFC North plus 196, a little higher than the Bears. To win the NFC 886, actually lower odds, lower payout than the Bears. And to win the Super Bowl, 18.5 to 1. You've got Aaron. I feel like the books have lined these odds as Aaron Rodgers unleashed. He's free from Mike McCarthy. He's going to be able to do things his way. However, that doesn't really solve some of the big problems with the Green Bay Packers. And I don't think their defense is horrible, but I would say it's probably average. But, of course, the glaring issue for me is the running game. They have been kind of piecemeal in the running game for the last couple of years, and they need a tandem or a healthy starter that's going to be able to carry the load. And that is going to take pressure off Aaron Rodgers. And the other thing I've listed is quarterback depth, because Aaron Rodgers is getting up there, and I know all these quarterbacks are becoming ageless wonders like Tom Brady, but if he has to sit out a couple of games, they have Brett Hundley as their backup. They really do not have a quality backup that's going to make the same magic happen that Aaron Rodgers is going to make happen when he's healthy. So I feel like these odds, I feel like Green Bay has a much longer shot to win this division than the odds you're getting here. So I don't necessarily agree with them. But the reason why I wanted to point out how similar they were to the Bears is because when we move on to the Vikings, who are the third choice in the division, the odds are similar again. You have the over-under wins at 9 instead of 9.5. You win the NFC North plus 208, just a tick higher than the other two choices. To win the NFC, 11 and change to 1. To win the Super Bowl, 25.5 to 1. Those are actually not bad odds to win the Super Bowl. However, we'll talk more about the championship futures when I get done reviewing all these teams here. The Vikings are a team that's really well put together. Kirk Cousins had a horrible year last year. He has legit weapons on the field. Thielen, Diggs, Kyle Rudolph. He has Brandon Zylstra, who's from the CFL, a very good receiver. He has Dalvin Cook in the backfield if he stays healthy this year. So I feel like this is a team that should be able to put up points when it needs to against the other teams in their division. The issues for me seem to be the defense overall. I would say run defense for sure. The run-stopping ability of the Vikings defense, I feel like, is not great. And I would say secondary questions, they have some suspensions and injuries, And they have a lot of players in their camp from the secondary. We don't really know how that is all going to shake out right now, but there's questions overall on the defense for me. So what's interesting to me is Vegas has all three of these teams priced very similar to win the division, very similar to win 9-ish games. And that leaves us with, of course, the last team in the division, and that is the Detroit Lions. And Detroit had a horrible year last year with a new coach, Matt Patricia, from the Patriots, supposed to be a defensive-minded coach. Their wins over under 6.5. To win the NFC North, 13-1. All the other ones are like 2-1 or less, and they're 13-1. Win the NFC 44-1. To win the Super Bowl, basically 90-1. And issues for me here are defense and coaching. The offense for the Lions, assuming that there is an offensive coordinator or some type of coaching that is going to bring it together, all the pieces are there. You've got Matt Stafford. You've got the receivers Galladay and Marvin Jones. Ebron is gone. You've got good running backs. You've got 3 good running backs in that backfield. You have depth. Offensive skill it matches the other teams in this division. The defensive side of the ball makes me wonder, but now that Matt Patricia has a year and he has a draft class so he can put in the types of players that he wants, and maybe he had salary cap issues last year, I don't know. But with the way this division is going to beat on each other, if it's really true that Green Bay and Minnesota and the Bears are going to beat on each other and they're all going to win 9 games, the Lions have if they can put together a semblance of a defense, and if Matt Patricia can prove he's a head coach, I feel like they stand as good a chance as any of the other ones to win the division, because these teams are just going to beat up on each other. And it's one of those things where you could bet this at 13-1 or 15-1. I bet it gets worse before the season starts. And if they're in the mix before, going into the last week of the regular season or the last 2 weeks, you can hedge out by betting against them, in their penultimate game of the regular season. So I feel like there's tremendous value. I almost never bet division title winners, futures. And for some reason, I just feel like there's insane value on the Detroit Lions here, especially if it goes to like 15-1 or 20-1. They can't be as bad as last year, and they're really only 2 to 3 wins going over their season win total from making the division title happen. We'll have to see. The Bears are obviously considered the favorite here, but there's a lot more parity than meets the eye in this division. And all the other divisions I've reviewed so far, that was not the case. It's usually 1 or 2 teams at the top and 1 or 2 teams at the bottom. But I feel like this one could go any which way. And I feel like the NFC East might be that way as well. And we'll get to them in a few weeks. But that's my review this week for the NFC North. I feel like the Lions to win the division would be a good hedging opportunity later in the year. We'll have to see how training camp plays out. But there's not much value. I think maybe 26-1 on the Vikings to win the Super Bowl. That's another hedging opportunity if they can make it. I feel like if these teams beat each other up, that will cause none of them to get a bye in the playoffs, and that's going to hurt their Super Bowl chances. But, they should be competitive. They should be competitive. We'll see what happens. So that's going to do it for NFL this week. Let's move on to Friday night in baseball. And we've got a full schedule. I've been doing really good on Fridays. Didn't have a great week last week with Major League Baseball personally, but I'm back and I got my model-based picks for you. And For those of you that haven't watched the show before, the number in parentheses on the screen is how many runs my model favors that particular team in the game. And, of course, the odds are posted from the Sportsbook. So, first game we have on the schedule is Colorado Rockies plus 120 at the Reds minus 130. Reds favored by 1.58 runs. Obviously, that's a very heavy favorite, and the Reds are priced very nicely. Will probably not be the best value on the board to me, but we will see. But that's a very nice price for the Reds. Dodgers, 0.34 run favorites, minus 161. At the Nationals, plus 148. You got to like the value on the Nationals here. The Dodgers have not done me any favors this year. I very rarely win when I bet them. There's no value on the Dodgers here, but the Nats have played very well in the last month, and I look for them to be competitive in this series. You've got the Braves, 0.26 run favorites, minus 129 at the Phillies, plus 120. There's not a whole lot of value on the Braves there. It's closer to a coin flip game where 0 would be a true coin flip. So there's not enough on either side for me to want to take anybody in that game. So then we move on to the Pirates plus 161 at the Mets. Zach Wheeler pitching tonight, 1.56 run favorites. Of course, very heavy favorites, minus 175. Not much value on taking the Mets and not much reason to take the Pirates. Although the Mets being the Mets, you never know. Then we have the Diamondbacks. 1.17 run favorites, minus 176 at the Marlins, plus 161. And this is a very similar, game to the last game. They're just the home and visitor are reversed. Diamondbacks are a sneaky good team. I feel like they're undervalued a lot in the daily odds, baseball odds. I've bet on them quite a bit this year, the Brewers and the Diamondbacks. Not enough value here for me to take them. The Marlins have really good pitching, but it's their offense that's usually the question mark. Cubs minus 104 at Brewers minus 104, and the Brewers are 0.29 run favorites. So, it's a coin flip game. It's slightly weighted towards the Brewers, so you would take the Brewers in that scenario. Not sure those are the best odds we can get today, but we shall see here as we go through the rest of these games. And we have the Giants plus 130 at the Padres, 1.6 run favorites, minus 140. And again, a very good number for the Padres. That's a real heavy favorite. The Giants have been playing well. They struggle to. I feel like their pitching is overperformed, and they struggle to score runs. It's from time to time. They score runs in bunches, and it seems like they haven't really done that well in San Diego this year. So I don't know. That's good value on the Padres. I just can't. It's not juicy enough odds for me to want to take it. Then the Rays, 0.24 run favorites, and let me see what that number is. We'll pull it up here. And the Rays are minus 131 at the Jays, plus 121. Not as good odds as, I have heavier favorites that are getting minus 130, so I would probably pass on this game. So let's move on to the rest of the games on the Major League Baseball schedule. And we have the Yankees, minus 122, at the Red Sox. Paxton, who has struggled in his last couple of starts. Cashner, the new pickup by the Red Sox, going tonight. 0.65 favorites, I have the Red Sox. And, boy, they really crushed the other night. Plus 113 on the money line. That looks like a game I'm definitely keeping my eye on today. Twins, 1.46 run favorites, minus 157 at the White Sox, plus 144. This is the kind of series that the Twins need to get back in the playoff race and reclaim their dominant position in the Central. The Central's really up for grabs. It's the Indians and the Twins are going to be the main ones. Obviously, the Tigers and the Royals are out of it. The White Sox are almost out of it mathematically. Realistically, I should say. But it's going to be an interesting stretch run for the AL Central. Indians, 0.99 run favorites, minus 127. At the Royals, plus 118. These two teams just played each other not too long ago. Plesac and Junis. Junis really had an excellent game against Cleveland. They couldn't get any offense going. So it'll be interesting to see what happens tonight. But the model really likes the Indians. Rangers visiting the Oakland A's, plus 102 for the Rangers, 0.15 run favorites. A's minus 110. This is kind of a coin flip game, and a coin flip, the model says it's kind of a coin flip. So, you would take the Rangers in that scenario, but I think there's better picks to take tonight. Then we have the Tigers plus 120 at the Mariners, minus 130. Again, another huge favorite. Favored by 1.6 runs based on my model, getting minus 130. Tremendous value. I just feel like there's better odds to take today. And then the Astros, favored by about a half a run, minus 106 at the Cardinals, minus 102. So I have the Astros favored here, and the game is listed as a coin flip, and we have, I just want to give you the pitchers here. Your Queerty and Flaherty going. And, again, it's priced evenly, but not only the way these two teams have played, but the way they stack up on paper, that you have to like the Astros here. And then Orioles and Angels didn't have any pitching info or odds at the time of the broadcast here, so we don't have anything on that game yet. But we'll have a couple picks for you. But before we do, why don't we move along to my favorite football league and yours least favorite football league, the Canadian Football League. And it's Week 7. There were 2 games last night, and I went 1-1 in those games. Both games went way under. There was the Stampeders and Ottawa Red Blacks was a comedy of errors, coaching errors. There were 6 turnovers, and 4 of them were in the positive side, or what I call the scoring side of the field. So if you bet the over, you were pretty much toast, which is what happens sometimes. Sometimes, you get the turnovers on the negative side of the field, which turns into lots of extra points. And, if you're betting an under, you're screwed there. So that's just the way the cookie crumbles. So we have a very interesting game tonight. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers at the Hamilton Tiger Cats. These are considered to be the 2 best teams in the league right now. The Bombers, of course, are pretty much completely healthy, and so are the Tiger Cats. This game opened up, I think, at 3, and it's down to 1.5. The Tiger Cats are 1.5 dogs at home, and the over-under is 52. And both of these teams have the best return games. They have, I would say, some of the better deep ball throwers. Not the best. Matt Nichols is a good quarterback. He gets upset if you call him a game manager. He doesn't throw as good of a deep ball as Bo Levi Mitchell or Matt Riley. I feel like Jeremiah Masoli throws a better deep ball than Matt Nichols. But I feel like Winnipeg has faster and taller receivers. So I feel like this game should be an offensive explosion. I expect at least 1 return touchdown. So I lean over here. The Blue Bombers it's a parity league. They're due for a loss. I would lean Tiger Cats here, but don't hold me to that. And then on Saturday, you have the Rough Riders at the BC Lions. This game opened at plus 3.5, and now it's down to plus 2.5. 52.5 is the total. Now, these two teams played last week in Saskatchewan, so they're playing back-to-back weeks, a home and home. And that happens a lot in the CFL, obviously because there's only 9 teams in the league. But I'm not a big trend better, but over the last large sample size of, 15 or so years that I followed the league, the teams split the home and home an overwhelming percentage of the time, like 65 to 70% of the time. And as much as I hold my nose to bet the BC Lions, I really like them to win this game this week. They seem to be improving every week, but they still have gaping holes, and I feel like their coaches are not as good as we thought they were. So I'm going to, I feel like at plus 2.5, there's no reason to take the spread. I would take it on the money line. But it could go over. I don't know. But I feel like it's the Lions' turn to win the game. That they're going to split this series. And we'll see what happens. But they've been fool's gold for me. So we'll have to see what happens. So we are going to wrap it up here, and I'm going to give you my picks for the week. Let's see if we can get over that $750 mark. We're going to start with the Red Sox on the money line against the Yankees tonight. I'm putting my faith in Andrew Kashner, hoping he doesn't get lit up, at plus 113. So that'd be a nice payout. And then I got the Astros at the Cardinals. I'm taking the Astros on the money line, minus 106. And I'm counting on the Twins bats to wake up tonight. Twins and White Sox over 10, minus 102. I feel like there's going to be a lot of runs scored in well, they don't call it Comiskey anymore. It's T-Mobile, I think, now. I can't remember. But looking for the over there. And then Friday night, we're going to take the Bombers and the Ticats over 52.5. I feel like I've been on a rash of overs lately. Minus 107 are the odds on that game. And then Saturday, BC Lions, money line, hope, cross my fingers, see if Mike Riley can get a win. So what I'm going to do is hope and pray that my bets come in, get some winners, and I'm going to play the outro music for you. And thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week. Take care, everybody.